How's it going, YouTube? My name's ElvinNinja7, your favorite WoW healing content creator. And guys, in today's video, we're going to be making a more fun, lighthearted video. It is a tier list. I know that these are always very polarizing, rightfully so. I think people reflect their opinions too much on power ranking tier lists, but luckily that's not what we're going to be doing today. This is not a power ranking tier list. If you see one hero talent tree placed higher than the other one, it has nothing to do with their power. Today we're going to be talking all about how fun these hero talent trees are. And how I'm going to be ranking them is I'm going to take the base spec. So basically you strip down, take away the hero talent tree of, like, say, Preservation Evoker or Holy Paladin, for example. And I'm going to say, how fun is that, and how much more fun does Lightsmith Holy Paladin make Holy Paladin, for example, or Chronowarden make Evoker, for example. And to break down each of the tiers that I have lined up for us today, the ZZZ tier is basically, if something lands in this, if a hero talent tree lands in this tier, it means that it actively makes the rotation more boring, more uniform, just takes away from it, makes you play around a bad spell, like something that just is not fun objectively. Oh, and also, before we get into this, I want to say I'm not just basing this on my opinion. It's hard not to. It really is. It's hard not to just dump my opinions in this video. But hopefully that's why some of you guys clicked. However, I'm also going to be taking into account a lot of your feedback in my videos, because you guys know I've been playing these in videos for you guys over the past month and a half, and you guys have given me some very valuable input on where you guys are landing or how much fun you're having with each of these hero talents. So let's continue on with the tiers. Meh is just it feels a lot like it does currently in the game, or it's just you go through the motions. It's not making it worse, but it's really not doing the playstyle or the spec any favors. Finally, or next up, we have fun, but might get old. Yeah, these might be fun for a while. You'll have a blast the first few weeks, but the idea of playing this hero talent tree or maining this hero talent tree for an entire tier just makes me anxious. You guys will hopefully understand once we get into it. The very fun tier, you're gonna have a lot of fun whenever you play this, but it's not gonna blow your mind. These hero talent trees might draw a few people to play that spec, but it's not gonna be drawing in just the masses. These probably won't blow people's mind, like I said. However, the ones that are put in the blast tier, these will. You can play these all weekend long. You can set aside your weekend plans to play these hero talent trees, and you'll be very happy that you did so. They're just a blast to play. Now let's go ahead and get into it. I have these randomly scrambled, so we're just going to start off with Lightsmith Paladin. So Lightsmith Holy Paladin is a ton of fun. I'll go ahead and kind of say that from the jump, because it plays around a new spell. And I think one thing that the whole community can agree upon, just in general, a blanket statement, is that when your class or your spec gets a new spell, it's fun to try out and play. For a while, at least, as a base statement. If that spell is super fun, super impactful, super engaging, has some fun elements like a random nature, that's fun, and that can keep you having a good time long term. However, Holy Armaments, honestly, the more that I've played with this, I've run so many keys with this one, I do think this has power, but this is not a power ranking tier list. The whole problem that I think that this talent tree has in the fun aspect is it centers only around Holy Armaments, and Holy Armaments isn't doing anything mind-blowing. So you can put a shield on an ally. That's really good, and it's nice as a healer. It's just another button you can press to kind of shock save someone's life, give them 15% temporary health. But it's not game changing. It's not like a new spell that just swings your hammer around and does big damage, or something does big healing. That's not it. But you also gain access to Sacred Weapon every other use of this, which does do a big amount of damage, and that is a lot of fun. Seeing a lot of different yellow numbers happen. The only problem with this, the only reason why this doesn't have that fun longevity, is that you aren't the one doing the damage. You just hand your ally the weapon, or you hand yourself the weapon and a random ally gets it, and the yellow numbers just happen. Nothing that you do can boost how much damage this does. And like I said, the rest of the talent tree just doesn't really give much outside of like passive things like giving your weapon another imbue, or just things that buff your holy armaments. So reducing cooldown or just gaining its effect when you give it to an ally. Things like that. So nothing like sexy, flashy outside of the armaments. And I don't think that these are fun enough to carry your enjoyment for the tier. So I will put this in fun, but might get old. However, I don't know. I'm hoping to be wrong on this one because I know how good it will be. It's just since this is a fun tier list, this is where it lands. All right, now let's move on to Chronowarden Preservation Evoker. All right, guys, I'm not going to sugarcoat this one. Chronowarden Preservation Evoker is really hard to place on the tier list because I think it does a lot of things very well, but also some things very poorly from a player playing point of view, which is what I think the devs should be looking at. They should put themselves in our shoes as the player and think, can the players play this for so many months and enjoy it all the way through? And Chrono Flame is very cool. Every time you cast Living Flame, it's going to basically look back in time for 15% of the healing or damage that you did to that target and deal it again from the past 5 seconds. However, it might as well just like boost the damage or healing of Living Flame. I mean, this does have some very cool implications if you're just needing to spot heal one of your targets or just spamming Living Flame on a boss and not needing to heal. But to a healer, how fun is that? Like, how fun is it to just spam Living Flame into a boss? No matter how much bonus damage you're giving it, it can't be fun. Same with spot healing an ally. It's like, how often does that come up where you're so desperate for spot healing that you cast multiple Living Flames into the same target? So, I don't know. Chrono Flame definitely drops the ball, and it sucks that that's kind of what this whole tier or hero talent tree is supposed to be playing around. But honestly, the rest of it is kind of juicy. Adding a hot onto your Spirit Bloom is very fun. People love hots. I mean, part of the reason why some of you guys out there, I'm sure you can attest to this in the comments, part of the reason why we play healers is because hots are just satisfying. It's super satisfying to press a button and then over time just see so many green numbers pop up on the screen. So this is really cool. And it also has temporal burst, which is actually very sick. So every time you use Tip the Scales, it's a 2-minute cooldown. You just get a giant chunk of haste, cooldown reduction, and movement speed. And the cooldown reduction is very cool. It gives you like a taste of what augmentation plus preservation would be, but also the haste just makes this so fluid to play around, and getting it after Tip the Scales just makes sense because a lot of times that's what you're ramping off of, or you're going to start your ramp off of, or finishing your ramp to kind of flow into your downtime. So honestly, I'm a huge fan of Temporal Burst and a huge fan of some of the talents like Reverberations. I just don't think if I'm going to rank this super highly that Chrono Flame will have anything to do with it. There is also Threads of Fate, which is pretty cool. So whenever you're in your little burst phase, your temporal burst phase, every empowered spell that you cast will give one of your allies a buff for 10 seconds and just replicate some of the damage that they do. Unfortunately, this goes on their meters instead of our meters. I guess it's fair because it scales off the damage they're doing. But the problem is that they have to be ramping at the same time as you. And in a lot of cases, like damage amp phases don't line up with our healing phases. So if you think of any boss fight in any dungeon, how often are you popping like major healing cooldowns during the pool, like right on the pool of the boss? You usually wait for something to happen, some event, and by then your like Fire Mage's Combust has gone away, or like, you know, their major cooldown is gone, so you're just not replicating as much damage as possible. And also this goes back to what I was saying for Lightsmith Paladin. We don't really have much we can do to boost the damage that this talent's going to do. And I think that's a shame. I think it would be cool if it just worked off your damage maybe, or if you could like target whoever this applied to. That would bump it up in the fun category. But unfortunately, because of all the things that I've said about this hero talent tree, we're going to have to put it in the meh tier. I think, like I said, it's very close to being in the very fun tier, but it does have some drawbacks in the fun department. I do think if this were a power ranking tier list at this point in time, this would be much higher in that tier list. But unfortunately, like I said, this is a fun tier list. How much fun is this hero talent tree adding to the spec? And unfortunately, there's just a lot out of your control, a lot of things that could be great, but aren't very practical in this talent tree. Let's move on to Oracle Holy Priest. So with Oracle Holy Priest, I'm going to go a lot off of the feedback that you guys gave in the comments. I know that this is kind of a crapshoot in terms of community perception. Not a lot of people enjoy this hero talent tree. It's either you don't enjoy it or you really do enjoy it. And I think in my video that I made on this hero talent tree, you can kind of see where I land progress throughout the video. I started out not really sure of how to use the new spell Premonition, which is what this whole hero talent tree is based off of. As time went on, as I got more reps with this hero talent tree, you really start to learn how to set up your Premonition of Insights, how to plan around your clairvoyances, when to use your Premonition of Solaces. And then Piety, I think, is just kind of like a raid boosting stat or something to pair with your major cooldown Apotheosis. However, this whole hero talent tree doesn't add too much in a fun aspect. It reduces, or it enhances some of your spells like Guardian Spirits. It gives like a little bit of damage bonus, a little bit of healing bonus to other spells, boost your Prayer of Mending a bit more, which this one is really cool. Adding a shield onto one of your powerful hots, it's really strong. Boosting your defensive is sick too. Both of your defensives, like your passive defensive talent Angelic Bulwark and your defensive Desperate Prayer, getting a boost from this talent tree, they're really like good and cool and fun ideas, but those are just like buffs that they literally could have just added to the tooltip of the spell to enhance the spec as a whole, and then just freed up space on this hero talent tree to add some fun stuff like Save the Day. Being able to grip two people back to back is really cool and actually very fun. I had it come up once in one of my dungeons, but other than that, it's hard to kind of find good uses for it. But once again, I'm just kind of listing things that aren't adding fun. But I think I'm doing this injustice by not harping on Premonition. So, like I said, Premonition takes a lot of thought. It takes a lot of thought. Like this much thought. You have to be like in like your brain in the clouds to play this spec to its top potential. So to a lot of people, the challenge behind mastering a spell that cycles between literally 4 different, completely different effects, that is very fun. And I am one of those people. I love a challenge. That's why I just had more fun as that video went along. So personally, I would put this in very fun. However, having thought about it for a while and being someone who plays other games like Magic the Gathering and who goes to paper tournaments to play Magic all day, when you go through these like highly complex situations where you're trying to set up like a long time in the future to try to play something potentially that won't happen for 15 minutes, you know, it gets really straining. And if I were to play this spec for a whole tier, I think the average person would get very tired of having to put so much thought into playing around one spell that you have to master in order to get the most effectiveness from this hero talent tree. I think more people would fall in that category where they get tired of it than the people that would like slowly just master it and enjoy it more over time because they're getting better at it. It just gets taxing. It's just very taxing. So for that reason, I think it lands pretty firmly in fun. You know, those 3 spells, they're really fun. Like putting a massive shield on your allies in Solace is super cool. It's even a defensive, like a mitigation, 15% mitigation. You feel like a healer. Trimming time off of Power Word Life is super sick, especially for Holy Priest, because it just allows you to save very important spells like Serenity, but this stuff isn't super fun. It's not like enhancing your Holy Priest experience that much as it's like taxing you, if that makes sense. So I'm hoping I'm not making any enemies with this, but yeah, I think it's pretty safe to put this firmly in fun, but might get old. But let's go and move on to the other Oracle Priest, Discipline Priest Oracle Hero Talent Tree. Now, I'm very also torn on this one because Premonition, like I said, it's just a polarizing spell. It's fun, but it's very taxing. However, with Discipline Priest, I think your rotation is more set in stone than it is on Holy Priest. So, for example, if your group starts taking random damage as in your Holy Priest, you have to use your spot heals as they come. So, like if one person takes damage, boom, Serenity. If your group takes damage, boom, Sanctify, Sanctify. You know, like your rotation changes depending on the circumstances. However, with Discipline Priest, you kind of have a set rotation. You go into your Mindbender, you Mind Blast, and then you press Penance. And you kind of do those same 3 spells to start your ramp at all times. Even, I guess, Power Word Radiance first, and then do those same 3 spells. So when it comes to setting up or thinking in advance with Premonition of Insight, you basically have that same set sequence available at almost all points. Like every pack you come up with Mindbender, you should always have a Radiance Charge. You basically always have your Mind Blast when you have your Mindbender. So prepping your brain for Premonition of Insight, really, it's not as taxing as it was on Holy Priest. Also, I will say that this whole like shift in going from your Prayer of Mendings applying shields to your Power Word Shields applying Prayer of Mendings is very cool with Assured Safety. I think whenever you press Power Word Shield, it feels even more effective because you're putting HOTS behind that very powerful shield. Also, this hero talent node, I was very shocked because when they first introduced or gave Power Word life to Discipline Priest, I thought it was life-changing because one of the big things that Discipline Priest lack is a way to jump 1 health bar up by a big chunk. And then once they gave them Power Word life, I was like, oh my god, that's like their biggest hole filled. They now don't have that major weakness because Power Word life is there. So, because of that, I first started testing with Miraculous Recovery because I thought, oh, this spell is so important to Discipline Priest playstyle, might as well have it up more often. But Waste No Time has been so much fun because it reminds me of that tier set that Discipline Priest had that just made your Power Word Radiances instant cast. It let you cast Radiance on the move, starting your ramp, basically doing almost your entire ramp outside of what's called Mind Blast on the move, which is such a quality of life. It basically this hero talent tree, although it's difficult, yes, it's difficult. It's like removing some of the problems, the pain points of playing Discipline Priest. So for that reason, I think people are going to hate me for this because a lot of people, like I said, just don't enjoy Oracle as a whole. I think this one was very fun. I was surprised at how much fun I had weaving in or utilizing Premonition during my disc ramps. But also, like I said, those instant Power Word Radiances, once I swapped to this hero talent tree, my fun, my enjoyment skyrocketed. Because you press Premonition, you start your ramp if you need to move, dodge a mechanic. And honestly, I just had a blast while playing this hero talent tree. I think that's basically all that I could talk about. Oh, also, your atonements lasting 1 more second is nice, but once again, not that much more fun. But it's worth mentioning because no one likes having to reapply atonements as often as you do normally. So adding a second, it's not a lot, but it helps a bit. So yeah, but once again, for all those reasons, I think it lands in the very fun category. But next up, let's move on to Keeper of the Grove, Resto Druid. All right, so Keeper of the Grove, Resto Druid. I'll be honest, one of the biggest points in these hero talent trees is going to be the top and the bottom talent. These are kind of what you're going to build your whole hero talent tree around and where most of the juice in terms of this tier list should come from, in my opinion. However, of all the hero talent trees, I think this one has the lamest top and bottom talent. So after you cast your Grove Guardians, which you know you're casting them very often in dungeons and raids and all forms of content, your next 3 spot heals also apply Dream Petals, which I don't know, it's lame. Honestly, it was lame. I thought this would be cool. I thought it'd be really cool to add like another healing effect on top of your other heals, but playing it just never felt fun to me, which is sad. I wish it was cool, but these are just the facts. Is all I can tell you. Also, adding bonus healing to yourself whenever you cast Grove Guardians is a cool idea, though. But it's just kind of, this one's also just kind of lame. It doesn't make it more fun. It's like not like you're gonna go out and use those 3% bonus healing anywhere unless you stack all 3 Grove Guardian charges on top of each other. Then you get a 9% healing increase. But really, realistically, what are you going to do with a 3% healing increase for a few seconds? You know, it, I don't know, it just missed the mark for me, honestly. However, if any of you guys have been watching me for a long time, you guys can probably think back to what my least favorite thing about healing is, and it's having to manage your mana bar. Man, I hate it. I hate how mana is just a way that can like really confine you. It makes sense. I'm not saying it doesn't make sense. I'm just saying me personally as a player, I hate when I pick the spec at the beginning of a tier that sucks on mana while everyone else has like 60% mana at the end of a fight. I just hate that. So any talent that boosts your mana, to me, I'll dunk that. I'll slam dunk that in the fun column. Also, Treants of the Moon is such a good talent. I think it's such a sick talent because one of the most annoying things as a healer is feeling like you need to do damage, or at least for some people. Some people don't enjoy having to do damage as a healer. Also, one of the most annoying ways to have to do damage as a healer is as a Resto Druid spamming Moonfire on each individual enemy as you run up to a pack. This talent says, hey, don't worry about it. We got you. So I think this removes a pretty annoying point in your rotation as a Resto Druid. Instead of, while your tank is collecting all the mobs, instead of spamming Moonfire, just summon like one of your Grove Guardian charges, let that put a few of them out, go ahead and reapply some of your hots, you know, like get your efflorescence set up, let Treants of the Moon do some of that carrying. Also, Durability of Nature. I love Cenarian Ward. I think it's one of the coolest hots in the entire game. You put a bubble on someone, once they take damage, that bubble pops and starts a hot on them. So whenever you cast Grove Guardians, their Nourishes and Swiftmans are going to be applying little small Cenarian Wards. I think that's very cool. Other than that, this hero talent tree really does not have anything going for it. I will say, though, Blooming Infusion, the bonus, the double damage Starfire, is really cool for AoE damage. I was actually having a bit of fun using that double down Starfire damage, but then after having fun with that for like 2 seconds, I realized, hey, instead of casting 5 regrowths to set up this double damage Starfire, why didn't I just cast 5 Starfires? And then my life was changed, and I'm just a hater on this talent. I just am. You do spam regrowths a bit, but I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm call me a hater, but this hero talent tree really just does not enhance your playstyle that much. It does remove some pain points, but that's all. That's really all I could say about this hero talent tree. So for that reason, it's between meh and ZZZ. I don't think it actively makes your play worse, and especially since they've buffed Resto Druid's healing, I don't know. I think we'll stick it in meh, because looking at it, there might be some worse ones. I don't think so. I think there's some pretty bangers left over. So I think of all of them, this one's probably the one that lands in ZZZ tier, in my opinion. And you guys, if you've watched me for a while, especially during Sanctum of Domination, you know that I love the passive healing playstyle. Summoning Sacred Order Monks was my favorite thing. So playing around Treants, putting this in ZZZ tier hurts my heart. I just think the execution after playing this hero talent tree more has just been low. It just is. However, let's move on to Voidweaver Discipline Priest. So when it comes to Voidweaver Disc Priest, I'm not going to lie, this hero talent tree doesn't change your rotation. I don't think at all. I don't think you do anything necessarily differently when playing Voidweaver versus not. So that should tell you that this will land low on a fun talent tree, right? Well, I've just got to say it. This hero talent tree is, of all of them, the one that surprised me the most. So how it works is whenever you Mind Blast, you just summon this void circle that's going to be sucking in, doing damage to people for 8 seconds. Whenever your penance does healing or damage, every tick of that is going to increase that rift's damage and size, and then this talent causes that to pop at the end, like doing a big slam of damage. All of this damage, by the way, adds into your Atoma healing. So that's already just enhancing what you're already doing as a Discipline Priest. Now, not to mention Void Blast. I thought this was just the stupidest talent when I first read it. So while you have your Mind Blast, your Entropic Rift active, your Smite is just changed into Void Blast. And I personally thought this was just a glyph. I was like, oh, okay, so it's just going to look different. But no, I mean, honestly, it sounds different, which doesn't sound that cool. It looks different, sounds different. So it feels like you're literally a Voidweaver. But on top of this, it gains bonus value because your atonement healing from your new smite, your new void blasts, is doubled. So it's just like this really enhances what you're already doing, and it encourages you to play the rotation, a very hit or miss rotation with Disc Priest, correctly. It encourages you to press Mind Blast and then press your penance. Where is it? Press your penance and then spam smite. Like, it encourages you in a very unique way to do what you're already doing. And I'm not gonna lie, I had a blast playing Disc Priest of all things. I hated Disc Priest and Dragonflight, but I loved most specifically, I should say, Voidweaver Disc Priest. I just think they hit the nail on the head. I don't think every hero talent tree needs to introduce new buttons for specs. That's just not the case. I don't think that's the case. I do think some of the hero talent trees that do introduce new buttons are going to have an edge over the other ones. But if you were to ask me what's the perfect hero talent tree that did not introduce like a new life-changing button, it would just be Voidweaver. So for that reason, it lands in an A blast tier, in the S tier of fun. But let's move on to Totemic Resto Shaman. So Totemic Shaman was one of the ones that I was most hyped on coming into the beta. And at first, it didn't really deliver thanks to its new spell, Surging Totem. So this spell replaces your Healing Rain and places your Healing Rain. So it's a new totem that you press, it puts a totem down, and it'll just spam or cast Healing Rain in a spot over a few seconds. So at first, this was very rough because it was not casting Healing Rain where you want it. However, they did do some changes to it, and you at least get to control where your first healing rain is, whereas before, you would just summon the totem, it'd be at your feet, and it would just cast it wherever AI thought to cast it. So now, this is a huge thumbs up, a big win in my book. If you've been watching my videos throughout Dragonflight, you know that some of my favorite spells in the entire game are Healing Rain and Chain Heal. Those are like two of the top 4 healing spells in the game for me, like in terms of how fun they are to just cast and how satisfying they are. Well, that's the entire hero talent tree here. And as much as it probably sounds like I'm going just off of my own judgment, oh, but he's a big fan of Chain Heal, a big fan of totems, a big fan of all this stuff, so of course he's going to put this high on the tier list. I think the sentiment across the community is also very high on this hero talent tree. So let's go ahead and break it down. So your healing tide totems, all of your healing totems like Cloudburst, Spirit Link, Mana Tide even, all of those just cast a Chain Heal. So instead of using a global to press Mana Tide, you're now also using a global to cast Mana Tide and a free Chain Heal, which is super sick. One of my favorite games to play in my own time is Heroes of the Storm, the MOBA that's based on like games like WoW, and it has a Resto Shaman in there that has a talent a lot like this. Whenever they put down their totem, it just casts Chain Heals for you. And I've always thought that was sick and wished it would be added to the game. Now it is. Also, on top of that, you have Totemic Rebound. So whenever you the player, cast Chain Heal while you have a totem down, it's going to bounce off that totem and keep going. So it gives you, the player, some rotational benefits to pressing your spells in the right order. All of a sudden, now you put down a Cloudburst totem, every Chain Heal that you cast in that is going to be pogoing around even more, giving you even more benefits. Also, if you do take Healing Stream Totem, which I was testing a lot in Mythic Plus over Cloudburst, it now heals 1.5 people, which is just very sick. Also, I think one reason why, like basically the biggest reason why you'll see people hate on this hero talent tree is because this was the perfect reason for them to bring back Vesper Totem, the beloved Covenant spell. I think it was the Bastion Covenant. What's that called? Oh my god, it's been too long. From Shadowlands, but they didn't bring back Vesper Totem. However, they did bring back Whirling Elements. So whenever you cast your Surging Totem, you're going to get 3 orbs spinning around you: water, air, earth, fire. No, there's no fire orb, but that would have been cool. But they just enhance one of your next spells. So if you cast this spell, it gets this effect. You cast this spell, you'll consume this orb, get this effect. I think it's very cool, and it does play pretty similar to at least the healing half of Vesper Totem. But yeah, I do think they should have brought back Vesper Totem. But outside of not bringing back Vesper Totem, I think they did everything right. They really killed this talent tree. And for that reason, it's going to be the second blast. I've had so much fun playing this, other than Surging Totem's AI, which kind of sucks, but at least you don't have to sit there and press Healing Rain over and over. You just put down the totem, it does it for you. So it's not the worst thing in the world. I am a huge fan of Totemic Rshaman. But let's move on to Archon HPriest. So Archon HPriest, I already know some people are going to take what I say wrong about this hero talent tree. But if you have not seen this one, I'll just go ahead and show you in one spell what it's all about. So I'm going to press Halo really quick. And I do hope that this catches on. I hope more people call this the Beyonce build, just because I think it's fitting, because you're playing around Halo. So yeah, as you can see, your Halo now extends out 3 separate times and it returns back to you. It damages and heals everything that it passes through. Now what's really cool is that this hero talent tree doesn't just add bonus ripples to Halo, it also adds damage and healing to it. So it really does the job of making Halo a very impactful spell. The problem is, this Halo is not enough to carry certain mechanics in Mythic Plus in specific. It can do a large amount of throughput in raid healing. However, like I said, it just cannot solo carry like mechanics, boss mechanics in Mythic Plus. But this damage and this healing can really add up over a Mythic Plus dungeon. Now, I absolutely love that instead of introducing a whole new spell for this hero talent tree, they just took one that exists in the game and just sexied it up. I mean, honestly, Halo is sexy now. Like, it's such a good spell. Also, this does boost your other healing by every time your Halo passes through them, they'll gain more healing from you. There's another talent, yeah, just boost your healing done by 10% while you're in your Apotheosis, your one major Mythic Plus cooldown, or if you're taking Salve and Raid, it boosts your healing there. So really cool at boosting, like making your impactful spells more impactful. But outside of that, it doesn't really do much. Now, I will say that Halo alone being boosted is a blast. Like, I had a blast every time I pressed this spell. The problem is I've only been testing this for like a month now. And I can only imagine that about 3 months into the War Within, this is very quickly gonna come down here to one of these tiers. I think it's just gonna get old. In a raid environment, I don't think this will get old. But in a Mythic Plus environment, I do think this will get old. So I do think this is a lot more fun than Oracle HPriest. Don't get me wrong there. It starts off at a blast. but I do think you're going to get tired of this one because, like I said, it just doesn't change much. It doesn't change your rotation much outside of you relying a bit more on Halo. It doesn't really boost your other spells all that much. It does make you a bit more tanky from your power word Fortitude is just getting a bit more value on yourself in particular, and power word Fusion also gives you a bit more haste. So that is cool. It can help you ramp with like big Apotheosis, power word or holy word Chastise, massive damage ramps, and with Halo as well. But outside of that, it just doesn't flash it up like some of the other ones that do deserve their spot in a blast tier. But like I said, like this is sick. They nailed this. They absolutely nailed what it does for Halo. Outside of that, like all these middle talents, like who cares if your Halo is slowing people? Unless you're like a PvP player, who cares about Shock Pulse, Psychic Scream, mimicking itself? Like it's just, I don't know. I don't know. There's just a lot of dead talents on this tree, in my opinion. So that's why I think it will die off in terms of fun. Give it like a few months, but just don't kill me or crucify me in the comments for not putting it in a blast. Hopefully, I've convinced you that I do enjoy this. I just think it's going to get old. However, let's move on to Conduit of the Celestials, Mistweaver Monk. Now, when this hero talent tree first came out, I was pretty brutal on it because, to be honest, my first impression just was a little low on it. However, I have put so many hours into getting good with this hero talent tree, and also I think I was just harsh for no reason to begin with. So, Conduit of the Celestials introduces a new spell, Celestial Conduit. If you haven't seen it, you just pulse damage and healing to enemies and allies around you. Now, I will say, this spell is very powerful. It's not as good at healing in a raid environment as Yulon. It's not as good as at healing in a Mythic Plus environment as Chi-Ji, but it's better than not pressing this button. So like if I were to just sit there and spinning Crane Kick for damage, I would be doing less damage than Celestial Conduit. Same with healing, with spinning Crane Kick healing. So it's worth pressing, which is good. And you look sick while casting it. You can move while casting it. So it's a very sick spell. So if you've watched this whole video through and haven't skipped ahead on all the other hero talent trees that introduce a new spell, none of them are as simple as this one. You are a beacon of damage and healing. It's very cool. The complexity to this comes with Unity Within, where you gain all the rest of the effects on this hero talent tree after that spell ends, or if you cancel it earlier, press it while you're casting it. So what are those effects? Well, Twin comes out and he swipes your ally whenever you Tiger Palm or Vivify. It's not, I think it's like a 15% chance, around a 15% chance to come out and claw your ally or your enemy, do some damage, which is very cool in Mythic Plus. You get bonus damage for pressing Tiger Palm, adding value to that pretty weak hitting spell. And in Raid, you gain value with your Vivifies. And what's really cool is this Zuen doesn't just do damage. He also heals an ally for double the damage he does. So pretty cool. Pretty cool in both forms of content. This has really grown on me. Do they need to add an audio cue to this? Absolutely. But you know what? It's grown on me. After Zuen comes out and swipes your target, Nutsao, he will come out and be ready to help your next Enveloping Mist. So he's going to make it cost less cast. He's going to reduce the cast time, this is so hard to say for some reason, by half. And he's also going to shield 5 of your allies for 3% of your maximum health, which is so cool. I thought, though, however, that this was very good when it first came out because I believe it was a 5% shield, so just adding bonus health or effective health on your allies, but 3% is not going to like save anyone's life. It might like in some cases, but it's not going to be clutch saving people left and right. It's just going to be like extra padding and just making your life as the healer easier. But reducing that cast time of your next Enveloping Mist can help you keep that hot on your tank in Mythic Plus very easily. And I think it's really good. I think just having a way to shield your allies as a Mistweaver, a pure raw throughput healer other than Life Cocoon, is very, very good. Now, the one celestial that comes out and helps you in a weird way is Chi, which I think they did our boy Chi wrong. So, whenever you're casting Refreshing Jade Wind or Spinning Crankick, they both have a chance to cause Chi to come help you. Now, you'll see I'm not even taking Refreshing Jade Wind. They did change up. You still don't take it. You actually get it from this talent here. Whenever you cast Chi or Yulon, you gain Refreshing Jade Wind. So that's how you gain your chance to get Chi to come help you. And when Chi does come help you, it'll just heal 5 allies and give you a stack of Mana Tea. I think that aspect, the reward part of Chi is very cool. How you get it to come help you is very lame. Very lame. I wish they would have just said whenever you cast Enveloping Mist or Spinning Crankick, it gives you a chance to get Chi to help you, because Chi has to do with Enveloping Mist. To me, it only makes sense. However, this only further incentivizes you to keep Spinning Crankick spamming in certain situations. In Raid, you literally can't control this other than casting Yulon more often, and that kind of encourages bad behavior because you want to line it up right. And then finally, this one. Whenever you consume 10 stacks of Sheilun's Gift, if you have Shao's Lesson equipped, or 20 stacks if you have Veil of Pride equipped, you'll get Yulon to come out and start shaving time off of your cooldowns. I thought this was going to be so broken in Raid, but it's just, you have so much to think about in the Raid build that really wants to capitalize on this, playing around Pool of Mist, that it's so hard to think about. So I do need to get even more practice into this one, but it's really cool. I think the concept is there. But outside of that, this hero talent tree has a lot of hit or miss hero talents. So like this one, Temple Training, this one doesn't add as much fun, but adds very good value. This one just shouldn't even be on there. Wind's Guidance. Like, why did they put this on a Mistweaver's talent tree? We don't care if Teachings of the Monastery doesn't save a stack. However, we kind of want to take this in some cases to get Tiger Palm damage. It's just so weird. This talent should not be there. But there is this talent. Whenever you get one of your Celestials to come help you, you'll cycle between just getting a different stat buff. Pretty cool. You can play around this. That's fun. But also this one, August Dynasty. I had so much fun playing around this in Mythic Plus. Whenever you cast your Jadefire Stomp and then follow it up with a Rising Sun Kick, it's just going to do more damage. So you're just incentivized now to sequence your spells in a slightly different order, or save your Rising Sun Kick for one more global so that you have it ready for when your Jadefire Stomp's ready. So all in all, this hero talent tree has grown on me a ton, and I do expect to play it in its current state in Mythic Plus and in Raid. And I don't think it's quite a blast, but it has definitely grown up to very fun, with potential to become a blast, or also to become quite old. However, currently, I've played it for about a month and a half, almost like 2 months now, and I'm having so much fun with this. It doesn't completely transform the playstyle like these other ones do. But let's move on to the one that started this whole series off, Herald of the Sun, Holy Paladin. So Herald of the Sun was the hero talent tree that myself and a lot of other people were super hyped about coming into the beta. However, it has just been axed by many nerfs, and in its first iteration it would have easily been a blast, but I think it's very important to consider the nerfs to their power and how that has affected their fun. It's not that power directly translates to fun, but it's how they've nerfed these spells. So the whole point of this hero talent tree is after you cast one of two spells, which are a choice node, your next two spenders apply a very powerful hot onto those allies, or a dot onto those enemies. And when you cast Avenging Wrath, when you get your wings, you basically link yourself between anyone with that hot or dot on them, and you create a line between you that heals and damages anything that passes through it, like a laser beam of healing and damage. Now, this is super sick, super fun to play around, but the problem is it's on a very long cooldown. It's on a 2-minute cooldown because it's tied to your Avenging Wrath might. But the rest of this hero talent tree also adds a lot of stuff to be desired. So a lot of people missed how Holy Paladin used to be just this shock healing bot. They kind of don't like the Glimmer playstyle. Luckily, they're removing the Glimmer playstyle, and Herald of the Sun Hero Talent Tree further incentivizes the Holy Shocking playstyle of Holy Paladin. Now, I do think there is some Nambo, a bit of dissynergy. What would be the correct term there? Someone let me know in the comments below. But in how Eternal Flame replaces Word of Glory and is super powerful, so it's a shock heal just like Word of Glory, but also leaves behind a hot on the ally, which is great. Great. The regrowth effect is very powerful in hots, but you're incentivized to press this spell. But all of these talents not only buff your Holy Shock, but also buff your Light of Dawn, which is your other spender that's not Word of Glory or not Eternal Flame. So it's just weird. It's just weird. So there's so much wasted space on this hero talent tree buffing Light of Dawn when all the devs had to do was just buff it, but literally buff its tooltip, make it heal more, instead of just wasting all this space just into the air, into the void, because there is zero value getting had or being had from these words that buff Light of Dawn and all of these talents. However, the rest of it is very cool. So I will say they've done a very good job in the design of this, because like I said, Sun's avatar is super sick. Eternal Flame is super sick. Those are the two new things that come with this hero talent tree. And on top of that, the where the hammer hits the nail is things like Aurora that just make it make sense. So, after casting Holy Prism or Barrier of Faith, your next two spenders are what apply the hot that let you link to those allies when you cast Avenging Crusader or Avenging Wrath. Aurora makes that make sense, because if you cast Barrier of Faith or Holy Prism, your next spender doesn't use any holy power. It's free to cast. So it just makes sense, because now if you have 3 holy power and you pop your wings and you want to, and you pop Prism of Holy Prism and you want to cast 2 spenders, now all you have to have is the holy power to cast 1, which makes sense because we can only get up to 5. So if we have 3, which let me get to 3 right now, then basically what I'm trying to say is you don't have to get to the 6th one to get there because of Aurora. I hope I'm not like confusing anyone, but this just makes it play so smooth, and I am just such a fan of this hero talent tree. I wish it wasn't as broken when it first came out, because now my idea of it is tainted, because I know it's just not as fun as it used to be. So for that reason, it's hard not to put it in very fun. But this is, don't get me wrong, this is one of the more fun hero talent trees. It's just, it doesn't feel as impactful as it did before. So it's just hard for me personally to put it in a blast. But you can have a blast while playing it, but I think the average person will find it very fun to play. So let's move on to Master of Harmony, Mistweaver Monk. So this is where I'm happy that I'm making a fun tier list, because Master of Harmony brings that in spades. Literally every talent node here adds some form of fun. The problem is that you're gonna be less effective than if you swap to Conduit of the Celestials in almost any form of content. This one is just better than this one. But like I said, there's a fun talent tree. So you're playing around your vitality. You're storing up any damage and healing that you're doing. And whenever you cast your Thunder Focus Tea, you're going to release or allow your spells to tap into that vitality to do bonus healing and bonus damage in different ways. What's really cool about this is that if you can take this talent where if you don't use any of your vitality, after you lose this 10-second buff where you're drawing upon all of that healing and damage, that vitality to do more healing and damage, you just release what's left. So you can just apply a massive hot to people after you lose that buff. It's really fun to play around. It's just not that practical to play around, because this is kind of like your new way to prep before a fight, whereas we used to prep our manatees before a fight. But where this hero talent tree really gains like hours of enjoyment is this left line, this left row. So Chi Burst and Chi Wave deal 100% more damage. Now, Chi Wave is passive, so you're just going to be getting this left and right. This one's super boring, but what's sick is Chi Burst. Firing this through a massive group of enemies and seeing it do like millions on each hit is so satisfying. It's a 30-second cooldown. Oh my god, I love just doubling the damage of one of my favorite spells, and one spell that's just super sick. Massive gain there. Now, this one's lame. Sorry, I said the whole left lane, but really it's just these two. Overwhelming Force. Your Rising Sun Kicks, Blackout Kicks, and Tiger Palms deal 15% of their damage in a line behind the enemies that you strike with them. This is sick. I mean, like, it's basically one of the Windwalker's old tier sets where you Rising Sun Kick and it shoots a wave. It basically shoots a mini Chi Burst through them. Now, this one is more fun to play than powerful, kind of like this whole hero talent tree, to be honest, but it's so cool adding a different element to a healer where now you have to think about your positioning while doing your fist weaving. It's really fun. I will say though, one big downside is that your bonus blackout kicks don't shoot the wave. So if you stack up, let me swap my build really quick. If you stack up your Tiger Palms and then unleash a big stacked up cleaving blackout kick, only one of them shoots a wave through the enemies. I'm shocked that that's how that works, because you're basically de-incentivized to line these up. So watch, we're Tiger Palming, we shoot that wave through, and it's doing damage to this enemy. It's a very small amount. Once again, it's only 15% of your damage. We Rising Sun Kick, it does bonus damage to things behind it, but watch me do a multi-hitting blackout kick. It only shot one line. So that's one way that they could have just like taken this and gone with it. But other than that, I mean, adding a second charge of Thunder Focus is also so sick. In Mythic Plus, it doesn't really have that many applications, or applications, because you only really use it on Rising Sun Kick now that Zen Pulse has been passive. But in Raid, this was fun to play around, albeit it wasn't very powerful, because you can do it on 4 rapid fire enveloping mist without having to take Peer and a Piece. That was cool. Or do it on, you could do 4 really quick succession Rising Sun Kicks if you're doing like a J-Fire Stomp raid build. So it's very fun to play around, but like I said, this one is it's just lacking in power. However, this is a fun tier list, so it goes up in a blast. I honestly have had like endless hours of fun just messing around with this hero talent tree. I wish it was stronger, but at least it's fun to play. All right, let's talk about Wildstalker Druid. Now, this is heavily incentivizing cat weaving because it really wants you to apply rake and rip to your enemies, which I think is fine. I'm glad that it comes in the form of a hero talent tree, because if you're a player that does not enjoy cat weaving, then you can just swap to the other hero talent tree and have a dandy old time. But if you're someone who does enjoy cat weaving, this really admittedly enhanced the playstyle. So you're playing around new dots and hots that your rip, rakes, and then also some of your heals, wild growth, regrowth, and efflorescence apply to your allies and enemies, and you play around those. Now they'll increase the damage or the healing that you're doing to the enemies that they're on, a lot like how Adaptive Swarm did. So this is kind of like a mini replacement to Adaptive Swarm, and it comes in a passive manner, which I think is very good, because as Resto Druids, you already have like way too many keybinds with all of your forms, especially. So huge bonus. I know a lot of people are upset that Adaptive Swarm is no longer in Resto Druid's kit, but this is such a good way to go about it. So big ups to the devs. Now, I will say that I wish that there was a bit more incentive to take this hero talent tree for those that don't enjoy cat weaving, because like I wish that, for example, Moonfire and Sunfire had a chance to apply Bloodseeker Vines. I think that would be very cool. And you're probably thinking, but this whole point is to be cat weaving, why would it do Moonfire and Sunfire? Well, because this talent literally buffs the damage of Moonfire and Sunfire. So it's like, why is this on the talent tree? But just sneak it in somewhere, you know? So that does suck. It does kind of like isolate a section of the player base in that sense. But other than that, I mean, this hero talent tree is sick. So you're boosting your spenders by talents like this, a Rip and Ferocious Bite are just doing more damage. Also, your heals are just doing more damage, which adds up, especially with your mastery as a Resto Druid. So very cool there. But the talent that just takes the cake for coolest talent on this whole hero talent tree is Bursting Growth. So whenever the dot that you apply with your dots expires on the enemy, or if you cast Ferocious Bite on an enemy with that dot on them, then they're going to explode and do AoE damage. And this is so cool because it transforms your single target spender into now an AoE capable spell. So in AoE packs, it does kind of change your rotation. Like you should now be pressing, like, for example, you could have a decision where it's like, should I press like a 1 combo point Ferocious Bite if the pack is big enough? Or should I still build up to 5 combo points and cast it for the damage that Ferocious Bite itself does on the primary target? Like, I don't know. That decision making has made this so much fun to play around, albeit it's very hard to find a great use other than on bosses in the beta because things die very quickly. But I'm just trying to act as if we're in, War Within already, and I think this is a huge W talent. Overall, this hero talent tree, it enhances a playstyle that is very beloved by a lot, while not forcing you to play cat weaving. It just enhances your experience. So I'm a huge fan of this hero talent tree, and I think it is a clear winner in terms of like theme and everything in the Resto Druid category. So I think it is very fun. Like I said, it takes one of the coolest concepts in all of Resto Druid history, an adaptive swarm, and kind of makes it weaker, sure, but makes it passive, and I think that's just great. I think they should do that with more spells, and they went about it the right way for this hero talent tree. But let's talk about Flameshaper Prevoker. I've talked a bit in this video about how the top and bottom row should be important, should be the most impactful two talents. And then I've also talked about how when you introduce a new spell in these hero talent trees, they have to hit. Like, they have to be the coolest new spell that this whole spec has to offer. And with Engulf, they nailed it. They killed this talent, dude. I have had the most fun playing Evoker. I've never, ever thought in a million years that I would consider swapping to Preservation Evoker, but I've got to be honest, dude. Flameshaper Evoker has really made me think about it because it is a blast. So let me go ahead and talk about what it does. So Engulf is literally just a 30-second recharge. You have 2 charges of it, an instant spell that does damage or healing. So you can cast it on allies or enemies. Where it gets juicy is for each dot or hot on that ally or enemy, it'll do 50% more damage or healing. So already, if you can stack a ton of hots on your allies, you engulf them, this cranks some healing. It does some pretty big numbers, and you can easily get some hots out with your echoes, with your reversions, with your dream breaths, with like a lot of different things. I think that might be all of them, all the big ones, the easy ones at least. But yeah, you can really crank up the impact, the on-hit impact of the healing of this spell, making it a nice instant spot heal. Or a giant damaging button if you have your fire breath on them as well. But where this hero talent tree really just kicks off and gives you endless entertainment is Consume Flame. So if you have Dream Breath on your ally and you cast your Engulf on them, it's going to take 4 seconds worth of healing that Dream Breath would do and just instantly detonate it, healing all allies nearby by 300% of that amount that was healed. Now, there are so many different ways that you can boost the healing of your Dream Breath, like passive talents like Renewing Breath, and there's one here, Call of Ysera, just gives it a 40% boost on top of the 30% boost here. So you can boost your Dream Breath in a lot of different ways. So I'm sure you can imagine that if you snap that boosted Dream Breath and get 4 seconds captured of its healing, it goes crazy. I could be wrong. I think I've read a comment where someone said it's not taking that boosted Dream Breath. So if I'm speaking wrong about it, it shouldn't go to show you that I don't know what I'm talking about, because I promise I've tested this a ton, it should tell you just how much this heals because of how it's tricking me to make me think it's eating that longer dream breath. Now, on top of those two interactions, that one spell being so sick, it also increases the duration of your fire breath or dream breath on your ally on top of them and causes it to spread to a different enemy or ally. So if you do it on an enemy, if you do engulf for damage, you're just adding that dot to a new enemy, which is super sick. They should already have it if you line it up right. But what's really cool is just spreading around your dream breath in raid. Also, after casting Engulf, there is synergy in your next spell because you're just going to be reducing the cast time of your next spell, so you can really get some sick value out of this. One thing I didn't even talk about while talking about the snapping of Dream Breath is just that this also just increases your breath's over time effects. So the dot from your dream breath, or I'm sorry, from your fire breath is just stronger, and the hot from your dream breath is just stronger, which is, it's just so cool. It's this whole, the whole concept of this hero talent tree is just amazing. It's so much fun, dude. I could literally play this all day. So if that doesn't tell you where I'm going to put this, I don't know what will. Whoever came up with this needs a raise. They killed it. They killed it. This is, I'm sorry, but this is the most fun one, in my opinion. Yes, you're still playing Evoker, so you still have a lot of the limitations that that spec has to offer, but it's just such a good upgrade to Preservation Evoker. Huge blast, in my opinion. And finally, let's close things off with Farseer Shaman. So on to Farseer Shaman. I think I've seen the most hate. Well, this is probably the second most hated in terms of what I've seen of all the hero talent trees, and I don't think it's as boring as a lot of people have said. I think it very heavily depends on if you're someone that really enjoys passive healing. So just when there's AI that helps you or assists you healing, kind of like Grove Guardians or Fallen Order monks in the past, just things that stand next to you and also do healing. And I do think that if you are an enjoyer of that, you probably lean more toward the totem healing from Totemic Rshaman. But the ancestors are still pretty cool and pretty powerful in their own right. Like I said, I just think this hero talent tree gets a pretty bad rap, and I think it's more fun than most people think it is. I think Riptide gaining an additional charge. So now you have 3 charges of Riptide, and you're just shaving time off of your Riptide left and right. So you're going to be spamming HOTS a lot more, which gets a lot more value and it's a lot more fun in a raid environment where you can blanket, use all those more Riptides to blanket more people in Riptide. Whereas in Mythic Plus, you just, it seems like you have 5 Riptides out in most cases and you don't really get that much value from this. So then it's like, do I take the Riptide boosting talents? You know, like, I don't know, because you're just kind of sitting on those charges, just using it as like a small shock heal instead of the hot effect. So it does seem to have some like bad design in the sense that like some of these buffs just you can't really fully utilize its full potential in a Mythic Plus environment. But outside of that, I mean, the ancestors that you're calling do a fair bit of healing. They do a good bit of healing, and you can summon them often. If you're casting healing surges left and right, which this does, all these new talents that they've gotten do incentivize you to spam healing surge a bit more, then you're going to be triggering undulation, which will cause you to spawn more ancestors helping you heal. So you can really amp up your healing over packs. And it honestly, it's a lot more fun than I thought I would have. It's still just not one of the more sexy hero talent trees, which I think is fine. I think it's fine to have some be these super flashy new toys and have some just be like, hey, you're just going to get more passive healing. I'm a fan of that. However, I think having both of these be more passive talent trees, you just have to make your decision on which one wins out. And I think Totemic Shaman is just overall all around cooler. So for that reason, I know it's a short explanation, but Riptide is pretty meh. Like I said, I think most people would put it in ZZZ or like snooze it off, but I think it's more fun than you would think it is. Like reading it on paper and actually playing it are two totally different things. And just spawning a bunch of ancestors, like having multiple out at a time, seeing them help you damage, help you heal. It's really cool. And I think that gains at some points for this tier list. So guys, that's gonna do it for this tier list. I hope I can edit this down because I've been recording for 2 hours. I'm so sorry this is so long. But I'm passionate about this, and I know a lot of people really look forward to my input when it comes to these things. So I appreciate those of you that do. However, I think it goes without saying, but don't take any of this to heart because one, a lot of these things might get changed by the time The War Within actually comes out, and two, this is just my opinion, and I fully support your opinion, even if I might not agree with it. Like some of you might hate Flameshaper when I love it. I think it's okay to have differing opinions. Just let me know down in the comments what you think and why, and let's have a good conversation because I might just have one of these way wrong. And I totally admit that, and I welcome your input. So let me know down in the comments what you think of my tier list and how you would change it. But also, while you're down there, make sure and click the like button if you liked any part of this video. I'm sorry if I dogged on your favorite hero talent tree, but if you liked my placement or my explanation of one, or if you're just feeling generous, I mean, every like goes a very long way when it comes to YouTube algorithm. Also, with The War Within dropping soon, I have a lot of plans for guides, for fun series that are interactive with you guys and live streams with you guys. So make sure that you're subscribed to the YouTube channel because you are not going to want to miss when that content drops. It's going to be a good time, and I hope that you're there to share it with me. Also, I want to give a quick shout out to the patrons of this channel because they are the only reason why I'm still able to make videos. Guys, I promise you I would not be able to make content with such a small channel if it weren't from the support from you guys. So thank you so much to these guys on the screen. You are carrying this channel, and I would not be able to do it without you. So thank you so much. But guys, that's going to do it for this healer fun tier list. This is just a fun one that I like to make at the beginning of each tier, and I think now is a good time to make one for all the hero talent trees. I hope it didn't offend anyone. Thank you guys so much for the support. I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, take care.